Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Good to have you here as always. So this week I am going back to September 2010. Yep. Weekend that I became a Hammerskin when I got my full patch. That's what I'm going to be talking about today because it was a pretty pivotal weekend for me in my time in that movement. It was also one of the wildest weekends and one of the most fun weekends that I actually had in that entire time that I was there. That's why I want to talk about it. Now, just to clarify, this isn't to promote, glorify, or endorse the Hammerskins or that movement or racism or fascism or any isms whatsoever. This is a look back at my past, at one of the good memories. Now, I've talked a lot about the bad times and the bad memories and all that kind of stuff, but I do also want to remember the good times with the good people, and that's what's important. And it also helps me for when my memory fades, I can look back and remember them. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the weekend I became a Hammerskin. So by September of 2010, I had done 12 months as a prospect. In fact, there were two others that had prospected with me, and we had done our 12 months. So we're excited about this upcoming weekend. The national meeting always coincided with the Australian ISD Memorial Concert, which was held in Melbourne every year. And we all knew it was coming, but the senior members had told us all along that 12 months isn't a guarantee. It all comes down to the individual and what you've done in that 12 months as to whether you get your full patch. But you'll get to find out at the national meeting anyway, because the meetings were compulsory for prospects and all Hammerskins. We had to be there. So, yep, we knew it was coming. We'd all talked about it, and we're pretty excited. And we were busy organizing everything as always, organizing people to get down there and get-togethers and all that kind of usual stuff going on. And then I get a phone call from Jesse, one of the Hammers. Now, Jesse was the one who generally organized everything. He was a senior Hammerskin. He's also the lead singer of the band Death's Head. He was very well known in the scene. He normally organized for the bands to come over. He was usually the only one who knew which band was actually coming over. Kept it very, very quiet because security reasons. You didn't want them getting stopped at customs and said, oh, no, you're with that Nazi band. Go back to wherever you came from. So Jesse started talking to me about the band that's coming over, and he told me the name. And I was like, whoa, what are you telling me this for, brother? And he's like, well, Drew, the lead singer, is actually coming out early, and he wants to go to the Gold Coast. Well, okay, now I get it. Of course. Send him on up. He can come stay with me. I'll show him around, show him a great time. He can be a tourist and all that good stuff. So that was arranged. Drew came out about a week before and spent the week with me, hung out, had an amazing time, got to know him really, really well. Very cool guy, very chilled, very quiet, very unassuming. Talked a fair bit about the movement and the old days, and he told me about his time with the AC Skins and, all that kind of stuff. And we talked a lot about hatecore because Blue Eyed Devils were the originators of hatecore. I was a huge hatecore fan, had it tattooed on my fingers for a long time. And so, yeah, we had that in common. And oh man, we spent a lot of time talking, got to know him really well, and even took him to Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary in the Gold Coast. So go hold a koala, something he'd always wanted to do. Had to do it, of course. And then he almost lost the finger to a wombat. Had to save him from that one. We had a great time. And then weekend of the gig, we flew down on the Friday. We always flew down early so we'd get together, catch up. And our national meetings were generally on the Friday before the event, just so we could go and get everything done. Because it was always us who organized the events and set them up and did everything for it. So Saturday was for that. So Friday, national meeting time. Crunch time for us prospects anyway. So we all go to one of the seniors' houses, as always, for our national meeting. We're all sitting outside while the senior members are all having their national. They do all that beforehand, get all their business taken care of first. And while us prospects are sitting outside sweating and biting our nails nervously. And then we get called into the meeting house. There's actually just a garden shed with a table and some chairs around it. Now, all the senior members were there, of course. and we were made to stand while Jesse gave his speech about what it means to be a Hammerskin and what is expected of us. And then he proceeded to tell us that they were going to give us another 12 months as prospects. They decided that we needed more time to reach the level of being a Hammerskin and blah, 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 blah. And he would have got away with the joke if it hadn't been for the Hammerskin sitting next to him going, gave it away. So we were looking at each other going, oh, yeah, okay. And Jesse saw the Hammerskin and went, oh, okay, you guys are in. You got your patches. Well earned, brothers. And he stood up, hugged us, and then one of the other brothers handed us our patches, and that was it. We had made it. Now, for all three of us, it was a proud moment. Everything we had worked for over the last 12 months, all the sweat, the tears, the involvement, everything we had done led up to this, and, we couldn't be prouder. Had nothing to do with the racism or anything like that. We had become part of this brotherhood that we had wanted to become part of. Especially for me, that belonging, that really meant everything to me at that time. And so the Friday night, our traditional annual dinner, a big get together, and we all rocked up and all wearing our Hammerskin t-shirts, which we had bought 6 months earlier, but weren't allowed to wear until we got our patches. So we were walking around wearing them proud as punch, we'd made it, man. First one to walk up was Drew, and he pointed at it, and he's like, congratulations, brother, you made it, and hugged me, and I was like, oh, man, that meant everything to me. I was so proud. And so many people did that night. Everyone I had become friends with in that movement all come up and congratulated me because they all knew what it meant to us. So that was a great night. And of course, Drew had brought the rest of the band over. They were all there in attendance. And there was one crazy guy, Bob. He was the drummer for the band. Great guy. Hilarious, and he was an absolute fucking nutter. I remember we were all standing around talking, and I happened to use the word cunt, to which he turned and went, bro, you can't say that. You can't say the word cunt. I'm like, dude, you're in Australia. Everyone says cunt. Australia! Yeah, cunt! Cunt, 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 Australia! Yeah, cunt! Here in Australia, your mates are called cunt and complete strangers are called mate. So it's a given thing. Just chill. So he turns around and walks over to where the rest of the band is and goes, hey, what's up, cunts? It wasn't received well. In fact, he almost got knocked out. We couldn't stop laughing, of course. But it was that atmosphere, man. Everyone was having laughs. Everyone was having a good night. There was no dramas. It was awesome. So then, of course, the day of the gig rolls around and we're all busy. We had to go get alcohol and go get all the hire equipment and go set everything up. So from 8 o'clock in the morning, man, we've just hit the ground running and we're going and doing everything, because it was us. It was Hammerskins and Blood and Honor who were organizing this all. So we did all the setup and it was great. It's good to keep busy because sitting around waiting to find out where the gig is really boring. So we got all that done and the gig kicked off and it was cool. It was a small venue, and we had about 80 people attending. So it was great. It felt like a lot more. And then the bands kicked off and I can't quite remember the lineup, but I'm pretty sure because it always is. Starts with Open Season, who do the usual Oi set, and then Death's Head. First official gig in years. So it was a good one. And I was a huge fan of Death's Head. Love the music, even before I met Jesse. So this was killer for me, seeing Death's Head live. But then Blue Eyed Devils, oh man, the band that everyone was waiting for, of course, because they were legends. They were legends in the scene, and everyone loved their music. I was a fan, not a huge fan. I didn't like all their music, but man, come on, it was original hatecore. So I was pumped for this one. So when Drew stood up on the riser and belted out that first line, my jaw hit the floor. Damn, this guy can fucking scream. This guy can really belt it out.
I'm getting kicked around. Voice accusation stood my ground.
I was impressed, and man, I was pumped. I was into it. It was a great show. It was wild, man. And I was actually the official photographer for the show. I took about 1,200 photos of that event. Unfortunately, when I quit the scene, I deleted every single photo I had ever taken in my years of that movement. So sorry, folks, I have no photos of any of that anymore. I'm sure there are plenty of floating around. I did share them all with all the brothers. So, hey, any of you ex-hammers out there want to share some photos with me? Send them my way. But overall, the night was amazing. And it was one of the only shows that I went to where there wasn't aggression towards each other. There wasn't violence. No one punched on. It was pretty cool. Everyone had a great night. And of course, when we're breaking down and setting, packing everything up, of course, I go into prospect mode and I start cleaning. I grab a broom and start sweeping, One of my brothers walks up to me. He's like, bro, points to my patch. He's like, you don't have to do that anymore. Get a prospect to do it. Go get one of the Crew 38 guys to do it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I made it. I'm a Hammerskin. Of course, I still kept cleaning because that's just me, I don't want to pitch in. I don't care about rank or anything like that. I'll do my part as well. And then afterwards, we always headed to Jesse's place. It was a bit of a ritual get-together after the gigs. Everyone, all the Hammerskins and a few select people would go to Jesse's place and hang out. Usually guys from the band were staying with Jesse. So we all went there and had some great laughs, and we were all sitting around the table talking and joking. And someone brought up the tree in Jesse's backyard, which is actually a datura tree. We were talking about it for quite a while, and we were talking about our experiences with hallucinogens. I was especially. None of us had ever taken datura, so we didn't know. Datura, if you don't know, is a very powerful hallucinogenic. If you actually have to remove one of the trees, you actually have to contact the council to do it. You can't do it yourself. So we're talking about this for a while, and then Bob, the crazy guy, just gets up, walks over, grabs a flower, and just eats it. He's like, fuck it. I'm going to try it. Like, whoa, dude. What the fuck, We kept an eye on him. About an hour later, he just goes inside, passes out on the couch. Of course, we kept an eye on him all night. And the next day, he said he just felt really hungover. So he was probably so stewed on alcohol and everything else he'd taken over the years that it probably had no effect on him whatsoever. Pretty was a little bit crazy. So the next day, of course, time to go home. We all packed up, said our goodbyes, all went home. When I got back home, I still had that elation. I went back as a Hammerskin. I'd made it. It was awesome. I felt great. Of course, that elation didn't last. As I've said in many of my videos, everything else that came along with being a Hammerskin just really got dumped onto that elation. Very soon the bad outweighed the good, and it became apparent that it just wasn't worth it anymore, which is why I quit. But that weekend was one of my good memories, and I do have good memories of that time, and I do want to share these good memories. If anything, for myself, for the future, for when my memory fades, I still have a permanent record of those times. That's it for me for another week. Thanks so much for tuning in as always. And hey, if you're around in about 10 minutes time, I have a live stream starting on the channel. Jump on over, Sunday Sesh with Brad. But otherwise, I will see you on Thursday night for another amazing video. And hey, if you want to keep seeing my videos and keep supporting me, many different ways you can do it. You can buy me coffees, merchandise, Patreon, super likes, all that good stuff. It keeps me going. But as always, give this video a big like, subscribe down below, and hit that little bell to get notified. And you'll be seeing new videos from me each week. Thanks so much. Have a great week, everyone. Stay safe. Peace out, and love and light to you.